Welcome to the Becoming Sound podcast, where we dive into the tough stuff and try to find the humor in the hot mess of being an adult child. Join me as we peel back the layers on growing up in dysfunction, navigating substance abuse, mental health challenges, and everything in between. Hello, and welcome back to the Becoming Sound podcast. I'm Krista, your host, and for the first time ever, I have a returning guest. Kim Long is here with me today, and I am excited. She is a registered psychologist and the founder of Dochas Psychological Services. Kim and I first sat down back in January 2025 for a powerful conversation about her story, her work, and so much more. If you missed that one, I definitely recommend giving it a listen after this episode. It's packed with insight and heart. But today we are diving into something that I've been wanting to explore for a while: identity. What it really means, how to answer that big question of who am I, and how things like fear and trust and authenticity, and yes, even social media plays into shaping it. This conversation is full of wisdom, reflection, and real takeaways on discovering who you are beneath all the noise, and really how to live more authentically. So get comfy and let's dive in. Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining me
Hi.
today.
Thanks
How
for
you
having
doing?
me. I'm doing okay. And you?
I'm good. Good. Thank you for
Good.
asking. So today we're actually going to take a deep dive. Like, we've just been chatting here before we started recording, but on
Yeah,
identity. And honestly, I think we're going to go down a rabbit hole. I'm not sure how
I think so. I think
I'm
we
looking
might.
forward to it.
It's almost
This
like
is
there's more questions than answers, honestly, but let's see where we end up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is kind of a big topic because I know I've asked myself this question. I can imagine everyone has probably asked themselves this at some point in their life, is
Uh-huh.
like, who am I really? What's my identity? How do I figure that out? And how do I be authentic to that? So explain identity a little bit and just how you define it.
So, I mean, if we look at the Google definition of it, which I brought up, it's the fact of being who or what a person or thing is, which basically tells us nothing.
Yeah. I
Like,
was going to
in my
say, Gina.
perspective, that is not a helpful definition.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, the way I've kind of conceptualized it is our identity is rooted in what we value and how we
Mhm.
live our lives according to what we value. But sometimes things get in the way, like we were talking about fear. But
Yeah.
um, it's it's that inner sense of who we are. You know how when something violates our values or breaches a boundary, we
Yep.
have this sense of, oh, that didn't feel good because it kind of went
Mhm.
against our moral code. That to me is identity.
Yeah.
Like, what do I really believe in, and what am I willing to stand for?
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's
Makes
kind of,
sense.
but then figuring that out is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not so
It sounds
easy.
so easy when you say it like that.
Well, it's like most concepts, right?
Mhm.
It should, but shoulds are wishes. It
Yeah.
should be easy. But when we live in a society where, um, evolutionary speaking, we have to fit in to survive, it
Yes.
makes it much harder to live according to our particular values if it's not what we're hearing the greater group agrees with. So when
Mhm.
you think about our world right now, I think it's harder than ever to live
Yeah.
from, and I think you brought up authenticity already. So in order for us to live according to our values, we have to feel safe in our environment to be connected, to still stay connected with other people if we
Mhm.
are wanting to fully embrace our identity. But in this world, it's becoming more and more uncertain about who believes what and who's okay with what. And so it's harder and harder to live fully authentically when we're concerned about being rejected by the group. Because from an evolutionary perspective, if we weren't accepted by the group, we wouldn't survive.
Mhm.
So even though we don't have dinosaurs chasing us, right? We
Yeah.
still perceive threats, and we need our group, our communities to support us. And so, and then that brings us into that whole concept of what is community now and how do we figure out who we are within community and
Mhm.
all the science behind that. But do we even have community anymore? Like
Yeah.
it's a way more complicated issue than just who am I? It's
Yeah.
great if you know who you are or have a pretty good idea of what your values are, but maybe the question is what keeps you from being able to live according to that?
Yeah.
Or what
Yeah.
makes you
No
stop
kidding.
listening to yourself to know who you
Mhm.
are, you
Yeah.
know?
And social media too has such
Mm.
a huge role in that. We're looking at everyone else's stuff and
Mhm.
we're getting lost and
Mhm.
our identities are getting kind of muffled in all of that noise. Just talk about that a little bit about how social media really impacts our identities and knowing who we are.
Yeah, I'm giggling because I kind of have a love-hate relationship with social media. Like I
I
understand
do
that
too.
it is necessary in the world of business. It's how people connect now. I'm not a digital native. The first time I ever touched a computer, the monitor went dark and I was sure I broke it. So I didn't want to touch it again. So I'm one of those people. However, there is research to show that people that are not digital natives respond differently to social media than people
Hmm.
who are digital natives. So I want to be
Yeah.
conscious of that. In my personal opinion, um, I think it gives us a false sense of community.
Hmm.
Because there is something that is different about being in a shared space with someone when you are trying to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
With that said, though, the research shows that digital natives view that differently. So I
Hmm.
struggle to understand that, and that's not my field. The other thing that is a consideration with social media and trying to understand who we are, and I can't take credit for this. I saw this documentary, and of course, I can't remember the name of it, but it was about how there's algorithms running in the background all the time
Yeah.
that start to curate the information we receive. And so rather than being able to be open to different perspectives, which can help us identify who we are and be more nuanced about
Right.
it, we're only getting what we started to look at.
Hmm.
And so that limits our view. It limits our ability to connect with others because we become so, in my opinion, entrenched in our view that it makes it hard to connect to others and thus know who we are while still staying in community with somebody else, which is important for us to
Yeah.
know who we are. Like if we're all the
Yeah.
same, then how do we different? Like differentiation is actually important.
Hmm. That's so true because I don't think you really realize that we're thinking there's this whole wide world out there and that we have a 160-degree view of the world because of this. But what we don't realize is that that window has narrowed it down into exactly what you're talking about. We're only seeing the views that we are clicking on or watching more than, 20 seconds. And so our perception is that we see all this stuff and it's all
Mhm.
different. But in reality, we're seeing exactly what the algorithm is trained us to see, you
Well,
know?
and with you saying it like that, it makes me think, does that create a bias for us that
Hmm.
lends to us becoming more entrenched because we're able to say, well, wait a minute, people in Germany think the way I do, or people in
Yeah.
Costa Rica believe the way I do. And in reality, some do, but that's been
Hmm.
filtered down for you to see. It's
Yeah,
not, you're not seeing the people that disagree.
that's right. We're getting this constant validation whether it goes along with our values or not,
Yes.
and so we start to alter the way we
Mhm.
think we are.
Well,
And
think
yeah,
about
that's
what you look up when you've had a bad day.
yeah,
Then all of a
yeah,
sudden you start getting that toxicity maybe
yeah.
in your life, and now you end up almost being clouded by that instead of the other aspects of who you are.
And the same thing with the political spectrum and,
Oy, oy,
you
oy.
know
Yeah.
yeah, I know, I mean, that's we're not going down that hole today, but But when things are
Yeah.
happening in the world,
Yes.
our views get very misconstrued by the
Mhm.
content that we're watching. And so this could sway us one way or another away from our actual values.
Well, and think about even the way you and I just responded to that idea
Yeah.
of going down the political route. We both kind of went, oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
but like you said, one way or the other, the reality is that it's a spectrum. And so
Yeah.
I feel for people that identify as moderate
Hmm.
because they're pulled to, you've got to choose. But that disavows a whole as something that they value as being able to perspective take,
Yeah. Yeah. So
right? Being
true.
being
Yeah.
open and accepting and non-judgmental. Well, if you
Mhm.
identify as having those values, you are now ostracized because you haven't picked a side.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like no
And
one's
that
winning right
really,
now.
yeah, and it makes you question everything. It just
Mhm.
makes you question everything about
Yes.
yourself.
The
And so
self-doubt.
that's where you
Yes.
get lost. Your identity gets lost is you're starting to question the stuff that you really identified with before. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
now I don't know who I am anymore. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
been there, done that a few times. Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. So that lends me to the question, how do we balance being authentic with wanting to fit in?
That is a great question, and if I had a clear answer for you, I would probably be making a lot of money.
Well, let me in on
Um,
it,
yeah,
off
if
camera,
I
and
had the
we'll both make
secret for
money.
that, right? I I'll be honest that this is something that has been a personal struggle for me, which is probably why I'm so interested in it in my clinical
Mhm,
work. That how can we remain true to who we believe we are and not be alone, like not be lonely? Because being alone is different than
mhm.
being lonely.
Yeah.
And feel like we're still connected. And I think hope plays a big role in that, we there has to be some faith that there are other people out there like you. You
Mhm.
just might not have connected with them yet. So don't be
Yeah.
afraid to keep searching. It's also about becoming okay, I'll say accepting, not meaning you're
Mhm.
okay with it, but accepting that in choosing to be true to who you are, you will be uncomfortable at times.
Yeah.
And we
That's a
try
big
to
one.
avoid being uncomfortable
Mhm.
because of that drive to connect. We don't like being misunderstood or having
Mhm.
our motives twisted. Um, so there's a lot of, and it goes back to trust. There's a lot of needing to trust yourself
Mhm.
and that you're going to be okay. And I think without that, you can't, you have so many barriers to living authentically then
Mhm.
because there's just so much fear of the
Yeah.
loneliness. It's
Yeah.
life's difficult at times.
Mhm.
It's even more difficult if you believe you don't have a connection to support you when you're like down on your knees and struggling
Yeah.
to get back up, you know? So
Yeah.
so how to
I
do it? I guess it's the opposite of everything I just said, like building trust
yeah.
and not giving up.
That fear piece played a big role in and not being accepted. But what I realized and what you just explained is that your community shows up when
Yes.
you start being authentic to yourself. And when you push through that fear and you say, you know what? This is hard and I'm super uncomfortable and I might feel like I'm lonely at first. But when you start really leaning into your authentic self,
Mhm.
your community
Mhm.
just I'm not going to say magically because it does take work. You got to put yourself out there, but your
Yes.
community starts showing up for you in ways that you would have not expected. And I feel like in the last probably 2 years, that's exactly how my life has gone.
Yeah. That's
You know?
beautifully said. It's almost
Yeah.
like a moth to a flame. If
Yeah.
you let your flame burn,
Yeah.
your people will find you, you know?
Yeah.
And again, it's not passive. It's
No.
it, you have to be willing to put yourself out there authentically and understand that you're going to get scrapes along the way and understand that it may also mean that you have to make decisions as you discover more about yourself, that the people that were in your lives were there for a reason, a season, and a time, and that it's
Yeah.
okay that those relationships change or end, or
Mm-hmm.
that you end up grieving that. That's okay. And the other misconception I think that's out there is that identity is static. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. We learn about
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. We develop. So identity develops as you learn more. Your identity can change, your values can change as you learn more through your experiences with other people. You may have been okay
Yeah.
with something before and then be exposed to an experience that challenges that. And if you're open to the challenge and you kind of go, wow, this really doesn't fit me anymore, that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. That's you growing. Growing involves
Yeah.
change. That means our identities can change.
Yeah,
Even
exactly. That.
Erickson talks about the different stages. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it it's expected to change.
Yeah. That would have been my next question is, do you think our identities evolve? But you just answered it beautifully. So
Yeah.
of course they do. They have no choice because we evolve. We change.
Yeah.
And, nothing stays static. So a lot of people think, well, y- that person's the same as they've always been. It's like, no, everybody changes. It's just how you're changing
Mhm.
and how you're perceiving that change. So,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I think our identities change as we grow. I wanted to ask you too about like midlife. So, when people
Sorry.
saying like, I'm having an identity crisis or a midlife crisis, it's
Yeah.
like, we're really having an identity crisis when we say that. How does that play into, let's say, a divorce after you've been with a partner for a long time,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
your parents and now you're empty nesters? Now what?
Mhm.
Right?
That brings me to the idea of hats. We
Mm-hmm.
we start out like when I was born, I started out as just Kim, and that's all I
Yeah.
had to be was just Kim. And then as you move through life, I think we take on these different roles, right? Like peacekeeper or jokester or student, daughter, wife, mother, caretaker, like all these things. And so it's again being able to practice self awareness. We aren't so great at listening to what our bodies and our emotions are telling us. We try
Mm-hmm.
to stay up here because it's way more comfortable to pretend that we're logical. But so practicing that self awareness and again being okay with being uncomfortable and
Mm-hmm.
trusting that this is a process and it is a grieving process.
Yeah.
Any change, even exciting change, brings loss because you can't go back and unsee what
Mm-hmm.
you've seen. Your
Yeah.
life has changed. So if you're navigating divorce, for example, um, that one it's difficult because you're grieving while maybe there's anticipation depending on
Mm-hmm.
how the divorce is going. Like divorce is so there's so many different factors
Yeah.
that like depending on how the relationship ended and all of these things. But I think it's just allowing yourself grace. I don't know. I'm so not answering this question because
No, no, it's fine. It's just
it's
yeah, you are,
loaded.
but I'm understanding that and I understand it. Divorce is kind of a hard one because there's so many factors, right? You could, that's a
Mhm.
whole topic on its own. But I think what happens is we get so wrapped up in other people's identities that we feel like we lose
Mm,
ourselves. And so all of a sudden you're in this place, let's say empty nesters or whatever, you're
yeah,
alone. All of a
yeah.
sudden you're single for the first
Mhm.
time in 20 years.
Yeah.
And you ask yourself that question, well, I don't even know who I am without this
Yeah.
person because it's
Oh,
like your identity is wrapped up in their identity.
yes.
You've
You've
taken on, you like this, you've
mm,
started to like the
yes.
movies that they like. You've started to go to different places that they like. And so now underneath that, it's like you have to peel away an onion and
Yes.
really discover who you are again.
Yeah.
But you're there
You
still.
you are reminding me about Runaway Bride, the
Yeah.
Julia Roberts movie,
Yes.
right? Well, Richard Gere was
Yeah.
in it too. I don't want to just give her all the credit. But
Yeah.
um do you remember the scene with the eggs where Richard Gere challenges her and says,
Mhm.
you just adopted everything that they were, which is basically you've taken on the role of wife
Right.
and
Yeah.
whatever expectations you had or mother and
Yeah.
the expectations you had about how to act within that role in a way that would be accepted,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
then you shove other things aside that maybe as just Krista would want, right? So you
Mhm.
ignore that in order to do the role. Okay.
Yeah.
But in the movie, he challenges her and he says, "You just adopt what all your fiancés love." And then he leaves and whatever. And so there's this scene where she makes a bunch of different types of eggs because he had said to her, "You don't even know what type of eggs you like." So she's got like poached, scrambled, whatever. And she's literally trying each type of egg so
Yeah.
that she can say, "Oh, I like this kind.
Yeah.
Not he likes this kind, so I must." Right?
Yes.
And I think that goes to, and yes, in some cases, it stems back to how we're brought up. These expectations of, if I am in role of mother, wife, husband, child, whatever, this is how I act.
Yeah.
And that is how it's accepted. And that means I'm safe. So when you're suddenly without that role anymore, it's not only a grieving of, okay, that I loved that part of my life, or I loved aspects of that life, or, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with it without that hat. It's also understanding that that hat maybe isn't serving you anymore, and you
Yes.
get to embrace the underneath that you've maybe had to shove aside. And I'm not saying that everybody shoves everything aside. That's not it.
Right.
But there are things that shift when you are in different relationships with different people.
100%. That was a perfect answer.
Well, thank you. Good teamwork. You led me there because I was like,
Yeah.
how am I going to explain what's in my head?
Yeah,
Right away,
exactly,
bride.
right? Oh, believe me, that's a daily chore. Yeah. No, I love that. So I want to talk too about how identity is shaped when you grow up in an environment with dysfunction or addiction or some other adverse environment, because your identity is really formed when you're a child, at least a foundational part of it. How does that change us? How does that change our identity?
So I think I've hinted at this, that really we are geared to survive.
Mhm.
And even before we have words, we have instincts for how to survive. And I'm not going to get into all the attachment theory and stuff like
Right.
that because that's a rabbit hole. But we can't blame the people who we rely on for safety. We have to blame ourselves. And
Right.
that's a crappy feeling. That develops shame and all that other stuff, which is the field of Brene Brown and others. Um, and because we're geared to survive, to me, it goes back to the rules and adopting the expectations.
Mhm.
So we will do what we learn is safe for us to stay connected or safe for us to somehow get our needs met. So now I'm thinking of the kids when I used to teach that were branded rebellious,
Mm.
or, they were bad apples.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I always had a soft spot for them. And what I saw was these are kiddos that are hurting,
Yeah.
who are reaching out in the way that they learned gets attention.
Mhm.
So in that way, they do get their needs met. Like
Yeah.
the kids that have temper tantrums because I need this. Okay, just take it. Just take it. Just
Yeah.
shh, enough. So you learn whatever works for you. The peacekeeper or the jokester. Humor makes people laugh and it stops the fighting.
Mhm.
Addictions. Hey, if I can just numb out for a while, it doesn't hurt so bad.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Like you're
think about
seeing their
it.
survival skills out loud instead
Exactly.
of, right? The
Exactly.
internalizing. You're seeing that
It's the
out loud.
behavior. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the behaviors. And it doesn't, I guess I struggle with the question because to me, it doesn't mean that that's their identity,
Hmm.
right?
But it
Like they
feels
may
like it
still,
is.
yes, because their
Like as a
behaviors show
child
that.
from growing up in that
Hmm.
too, like you understand this as well. Then you get to a point where in your life, so you've lived this whole way as a child and you've learned all
Hmm.
these coping mechanisms and all this stuff that is like it's just like layered and layered and layered on
Yes.
you
Yeah.
thick. And then you get
Yeah.
to a point where, and for me it was much later in life, but you start healing and you start peeling away all of those layers.
Yeah.
And but the first question that comes up is, I don't even know who I really am. In all honesty, I think for when I asked myself that question, it was really the truth, because
Yep.
all of the things I had adopted when I was young is what made up my identity. And I really
Absolutely.
had to peel. It's like you have to peel so many layers back just to get
Mhm.
to the point where you're like, okay, now I see where that foundational stuff went wrong. How do
Yeah.
I start building that back up for myself so that I feel secure in my actual authentic identity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge what a courageous journey that is
Yes.
to, regardless of whatever point you are in life, to
Mm-hmm.
actually boldly look at it and say, hang
100%.
on, I need to peel these layers back so that I can choose.
Yeah.
And I admit that bias. I believe in that existential Viktor Frankl idea of we choose who we are. It is the
Mm-hmm.
last of our freedoms, he says, in Man's Search for Meanings. It's the last of our freedoms, the right to choose who we are, even in hardship. And that's
Yeah.
why I think I struggle with the concept of identity and have so many questions about it,
Mm-hmm.
because even in childhood, we are choosing the role. We are choosing what we value because it does serve a purpose for us. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
subconscious choice. It's not like we're picking from a menu and going,
Yeah.
oh, this today.
Exactly.
Um, and because it's so subconscious, it can feel ingrained. I'm hearing what you're saying. Like for me, logically, I'm speaking from a logical place right now
Yeah.
and saying, this is what I believe logically. From an emotional body felt space, I struggle with knowing who I am. And it's like I should
Yeah.
just have this epiphany. Oh, bam, Kim
Yeah.
knows who she is. And it's just this felt sense and I feel secure and everything's good. No,
Yeah.
for me, I have to trust, and this is hard for me because there's a lot of self-doubt,
Mm-hmm.
where I have to trust that I can choose it and I can choose a different ideal than I chose when I was younger. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be the peacekeeper or the clown. I don't have to focus on achieving in order to feel valued, but that is
Yeah.
hard. Like, we're chit-chatting about this today, and on paper, again, it should be easy, but this is a painful, raw
Mm-hmm.
examination
Yeah.
of what we, and again, I go back to grief, but what we felt we had to choose to be
Mm-hmm.
to survive. And now we get to make a different choice, but that takes courage because all we've known is the before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's terrifying because
Yeah.
at least we can, even if it was crappy, we can predict that.
Yeah.
But I'm stepping into the unknown. How am I supposed to do that? And it's really a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of kind of going for it. And that's not a relieving answer for anybody,
No.
right?
Well,
But it's
at this
comfortable with
stage it
the
is.
discomfort. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how
But
you
then what
said that.
changed for you though? So you're saying at this
Um,
stage it is. So what changed other
well,
than
you know
maybe
what?
you have different people in your life or
I have different people in my life. I found my voice, but I also started tapping into my body
yeah,
because
yeah.
when you were saying that emotional piece, that is what helped me connect myself. Because let's face it, people who grew up in this, we're very analytical. Like I can
Yeah. Oh yeah.
analyze till the cows come home, you know?
Yeah.
And I intellectualize so much stuff. Like research is like it's a trauma response, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And then you know all this stuff and you're like, oh, I got it. Right. And that's where I spent so much of my time. But that piece that you said about the feeling, when you feel that emotional piece, I started to get into my body. It was very disconnected.
Mhm.
So when I started that and I really allowed those emotions to come up and that grieving process, like
Mhm.
grieving what I felt like I wasn't or that I didn't
Yeah.
have all those years. I had to grieve that. So I had
Yes.
to feel it
Oh, I
in
love
my
that you said
body.
that.
Yeah.
I love
I
that
had
you
to,
said that.
yeah.
Mhm. Because it's
That's,
not just a
uh,
letting go of what we held on to so tightly,
yeah.
it's also a letting go of what we wished could have happened
Yes.
differently, right?
Yeah.
So there's two aspects
Hmm.
to the grieving. And speaking about the intellectualization, I joke with my clients and actually I joke with my own therapist about this too. If we could have thought our way out of the problem, we probably would have done it by now, right? Like
Oh,
there's a difference between knowing intellectually and
Yes.
knowing in the rest of our system.
Yeah.
And for people that have lived through more dysfunctional upbringings or environments, it's hard to be connected in our bodies because we don't
Hmm.
want to feel
Yeah.
that hypervigilance or on guard or
Hmm.
sadness or whatever it is all the time.
Well,
So it's
that's where the
easier to
pain
just
lives.
so, well,
Yeah.
yeah. So why
That's where
go
the pain
there?
lives, is in your
Yeah.
body. Most people think because they think of it that they're having this response, but
Yeah.
it's when they feel it, that's where the pain is, right? And so if you can,
Yeah.
yeah, peel away some of those layers and really tap into the emotional part, that was the
Hmm.
shift for me.
And
Yeah.
something that can maybe make that less scary, and I would love to know what your process was for that, is to think of the body and the emotion space as just information. It's
Yeah.
not trying to hurt you, it's trying to give you information. It just doesn't have
Hmm.
language. So our other part of our brain that we rely on so much has to
Hmm.
interpret it, and sometimes it misinterprets it. It's like speaking metaphor all the time. So for you, how did you trust or engage in that idea of getting into your body when that was a scary place to go?
You know what? It was a slow process. It didn't just all of a sudden happen because I thought it would, it was a
Yeah.
slow process. It was like, um, I think the very first, and this was only about, well, just about 3 years ago, so 2.5 years ago. And I had done a lot of work before that in trying to get attached to my body and feel those feelings and let things come out. But I had went to this lady who I just call her a witch doctor, but she literally does Reiki, she does
Yes.
body work, she just a bunch of different modalities. So I call her the witch doctor.
Hmm. Yeah.
But she started like putting her elbow into my butt cheek. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my face is down in the little donut pillow thing. And
Yeah.
like when I say I've never felt so much pain in my life, like I've
Hmm.
had massages and I'm like, oh, I'm a little tender there. No, like she went for it. And what was happening was she was connecting me to where I'm holding the pain. And that was a huge breakthrough for me
Hmm.
because I knew there was pain there, but I wasn't letting anyone dig deep enough. And I, in a physical sense, but
Yes.
in an emotional sense too. So that was kind of
Yeah.
like that was the pivot for me.
Hmm.
And I really like, first of all, I just bawled my eyes out
Yeah. Yeah.
in that little donut pillow. And she was just like, let it out. You're safe here.
Yes.
And that was part of it, is that fear of being not safe and being okay.
Mm.
And what happens if I let all this out? Then what? Then who am
Yeah.
I? Then what am I going to do with
Yes.
that? And that was kind of a shift where I started, I'm like, okay, I left there after the hour of being completely beat to crap and
Yeah. Yeah.
feeling like someone had just lifted the bricks off of my shoulder. I left there lighter. I left there feeling connected to my body for the first time in so many years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, I was like, okay, well, that wasn't that bad. What was I so scared of? What was I so afraid of?
Yes.
So it was a window
Yeah.
opened, and then I could move through that and say, okay,
Hmm.
what else have I been holding on to that I
Hmm.
really was scared of? But this is ridiculous. It's not as scary as you think once you address it,
Yeah.
right?
And I really appreciate, first of all, you sharing that with us because that's a precious story.
Yeah.
But also that you said, what was I so afraid of? And it again goes back to expectations or beliefs or
Hmm.
the way we absorb these expectations. Like, growing up in a military environment, it's especially for the boys, don't be weak. Don't be a sissy.
Yeah.
Don't show
Yeah.
emotion. Don't show
Hmm.
pain. Like even physical pain, they weren't
Hmm.
supposed to show. Or this idea of I must be the rock. I am the glue
Hmm.
that holds everybody together. And those constraints don't let us go back, and they're self-imposed in a way, but they don't
Hmm.
let us go back and go, "Hey, body and emotion, what was that experience like for you that we just went through?" And I mean, it's not as straightforward as that. But sometimes even just going to some of the alternative health options like acupuncture. I remember I went to Spruce Grove Acupuncture, and Constantine was working on me, and he did the needle thing,
Yeah.
because obviously acupuncture, but he did it, I think it was like between my toes, and I nearly jumped off the table, and he goes, okay, we found a stress point there. And I'm like, you son of a gun, right? But man, did
Yeah.
I feel good after. Using some of these other forms can almost make it
Mhm.
safe to explore our body and our emotional state, because the expectation when we go there is that we will connect with our body, like going
Yeah.
for massage. You know, some of the best insights I've heard from people is they're laying on the massage table and something gets pressed, and the next thing they know, they're
Yeah.
crying, and they're like, I don't, help me understand that. And I'm like, your
Yeah.
your body was just trying to tell you
Yeah.
something. It was
Yeah.
trying to
You were just
release a
hanging on to that.
toxin. It's
Yeah.
poison that we ingest, and we hang on to
It
it. We don't
is.
have to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that story that you just shared, because it does
Yeah.
bring up all of those
Yeah.
misconceptions about
Yeah. And
weakness and strength and
exactly. Exactly. And I love what you said about using other modalities to help you in that process.
yeah.
So that kind of leads me to my next question was like what are some strategies or what are some things that people could really start to do to start connecting to their identity or authentic self?
Mm. Um s- so that's a great question. Um Observing language can be
Mhm.
important, like the things you say and how you talk about people or about yourself even can help show
Mhm.
some of those expectations that you have, that you can then, once you're aware of them, you can challenge them. The
Mhm.
other thing is, for people that are uncomfortable in their bodies, you can even just, like, I just shifted in my chair because
Mhm.
I'm now paying attention to what points of my body are connecting to the chair. Where do I feel the pressure? Of where my arms are resting, or where, like, I can now feel my back more pressed into the chair.
Mhm.
And that can be a really safe entrance into paying attention to your body, because if we go too far in, that can be overwhelming and it'll scare you, and then you won't want to do it again. So
Right.
just paying attention that way. I also use these things called interactive cards with clients in
Okay.
session. And what they are is they're just pictures. So you could even
Yes.
find pictures online and just ask yourself, what's my reaction to this picture?
Yeah. That
What
I did that
what
with my
parts of
therapist
me,
too.
yeah, like what
Yeah,
parts
the
of me
cards.
are kind of coming up right now that have
Yeah.
something to say about it, and just pay attention. So it's really about paying attention non-judgmentally. And what I mean by that
Mhm.
is without any shoulds. Like, oh, well, what is that? That shouldn't be there. Mm,
Yeah.
no, how about we're just scientists? And you go, oh, well, it is there. That's curious. What is that about? And just be curious without limiting yourself, which
Mhm.
again, easier said than done.
Yeah.
But like, imagine that you're putting on this, in high school, we got to put on the jackets in chemistry and we had to change one variable at a time. Just start doing
Yeah.
that. Or
Yeah.
even make yourself some eggs, like in Runaway Bride, and just start
Exactly.
trying things. Like, it's
Yeah.
just starting and observing. That's
Yeah.
it. That's
Mhm.
honestly it.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and knowing
Yeah.
that you're going
And
to be okay.
yeah, exactly. And I think an important part too is we're so used to doing things. And this has nothing to do with community and connection and all that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But but just experiencing some stuff on your own,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and it really gets you out of kind of other people's opinions and expectations and just really get curious about what do I love? Like,
Hmm.
what movie do I want to go see? I've been to
Hmm.
movies by myself. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
so weird walking in. It's so
Hmm.
uncomfortable. But
Yes.
once I was in there and I got my popcorn and everything, and I'm like, I don't talk to anyone during the movie anyway, so I don't even need anyone beside me. But
Yeah.
that get pushing through that fear of doing things on your own so you really can
Hmm.
discover what it is
Hmm.
that you love, what it is that makes you excited or happy or sad or all of the range, right?
Yeah. That's a great way to start, actually, is to do something where there isn't the expectation of conversation. right? And that's a safe way to practice being uncomfortable, but in a short period. Because really, once the
Yeah.
movie starts, it's all dark. Who cares?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So you're titrating that. That's a great idea, actually, the
Yeah.
movies. Or going for
Yeah.
a walk, right? Going on a
Hmm.
short trip by yourself. Just giving
Yeah,
yourself, like you said, that space to not worry about what other people are thinking.
exactly. And I think then when you come back into community and connection, you have this knowing, and then
Mm,
you're more willing to participate in conversation and
yeah.
engage in who you are, right?
Yeah. One of the things that I will do before I have a decision to make is I will spend some time alone thinking about what I actually want and what is my gut
Mhm.
instinct about it before I check with anybody else. So I almost have the decision made, and then I will ask for input because I need to know what I believe before I ask anybody else, because I know that I still have enough of that people pleasing tendency that I can be
Mhm.
swayed if I haven't really reflected for myself alone first.
Yeah, I love that. I love that's great advice because
Yeah.
I've spent so much of my life asking other people what I should do
Mhm.
that you lose that ability to sit with yourself and really tap into what is it that
Mhm.
I really want, you know?
Mhm.
And that plays back into what we were talking about before, the whole social media thing and the whole, it's like your people are going to other sources for their answers when they
Mhm.
know they already have the answers within them. You just have
Mhm.
to tap into that. And we're
We've
so
stopped
used to,
listening.
yeah, yeah, exactly. We're so used
We
to
don't
getting
slow
our
down.
information from an outside source.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people have really good instincts. Like, I see
Oh,
that in my interns all the time. I'm like, just trust yourself. You know what you're
yeah.
doing.
Yeah,
Just go for it. And then we'll evaluate it after.
exactly. What's the worst that can happen? You make a little mistake.
Exactly.
It's just a learning
Exactly.
opportunity, right? So, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So, tell me something that you're excited about,
Just in general, or
just in general. Just tell me something you're
just in
excited about.
general. I have a few things I think I'm excited about. So on the work front, I'm transitioning to like supervising provisionals. I've been supervising interns for quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
And just to see this new avenue of growth for them is going to be really, really cool. And of course, my team is just amazing and they're doing so many wonderful things. But this year I actually went to Italy for the first time. So I started
Nice.
to travel again, which is something that I love to do and haven't done for a while.
Mhm.
And yeah, practicing it's very much the identity search. So like
Yeah.
practicing photography, doing more baking, getting out in nature. I've been loving the like where I live, it's by a my boyfriend calls it a pond, but it's a lake, whatever. And it's like all misty and you see the sunshine coming through. And I
Mm,
just keep thinking, oh my God, it's so beautiful.
that's
So,
beautiful.
so yeah, I'm just excited about simplifying my life. That's
Yeah.
probably the shortest answer that I could have started with. Sorry, I'm a roundabout person, but just simplifying things so
Yeah.
that I can reconnect with me.
Yeah. I
So,
think
yeah.
that
What
word
about you?
simplify, well, I think that word simplify, when you just said that, it's like, honestly, it's kind of the answer to everything we've been talking about. It's like when you get quiet, when you start to notice, and when you start to simplify your life, your authenticity comes through. Like
Mhm.
that's when you start discovering things about yourself. So I love how you said that.
Well, and learning to trust myself that
Yeah.
my simplifying things is okay. And what I think and want is okay, even if other people say that it's silly or whatever. So
Yeah.
to me, it's simplicity, but you got to throw that trusting yourself in there too and learning
Mhm.
how to, especially if you grew up thinking that you couldn't, that you had to adapt for others, right? But what about
Yeah.
you? What are you excited about?
I'm excited. I'm just working on a new program and
Yes.
to bring out hopefully in January in the new year. And you know what? I love this season of my life. And I love that I get to have amazing conversations with people.
Mhm.
And I'm loving just being outside and
Yes.
enjoying this beautiful, I love the colors and fall
Yeah.
and all of that.
We've had a
And
beautiful fall. Yes.
it is a beautiful fall. And my son is turning my son is turning 30 tomorrow.
No.
Yes,
No.
he is. And so I'm
Wow.
having this
Good for you. Well,
I'm
good for
having
him,
this
but good for
all
you.
these memories flood back, but I'm
Yeah.
like, how is this possible? And then we were talking about this before we even started. It's like
Yeah.
you're never too old. It's never too late. There's, I'm in my 50s, but this is like I'm halfway through my life,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that what
Yeah.
you said? Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Like
And
I finished my master's at 40. Like
yeah,
I started over again at 40 because I'm also in my 50s. And
yeah,
we're just getting started.
I know.
Yes.
It's exciting. This is an exciting
Yes.
time of life. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm
that's what
very
I'm
happy
excited
for you.
about. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Cool.
So is there
Yeah.
anything else that you want to talk about or
Well, just speaking about
parting words?
identity, well, I'll have some parting words after this, but
Okay.
speaking about identity, another thing I'm excited about is we launched something called the Dochas Compass, which is where you can go onto our website and you choose answers that suit you to match you with the therapist that is probably the best fit for you.
Oh, I
So
love
you get to
that.
decide for you, which I hadn't clued in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was even doing identity stuff when we worked on that. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always kind of been there. But parting words. I go back to what Viktor Frankl says, which is the last of our freedoms is to choose for ourselves who we
Hmm.
are. And what a beautiful gift that is, that
Yeah.
we can always make that choice if we allow ourselves to. And that it's never too late. It's never too late. So go for it because you're beautiful. And I'm not talking like you are physically, but but just internally, we are
Yeah.
born to be beautiful, empathetic people. Trust that.
Yes. I could not agree more.
So go for
Beautifully
it.
said.
Go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kim, for joining me today. It's been
Yeah.
an
Thank
absolute
you.
pleasure. I always
I
love
love
talking to you, and I'm
talking.
glad you came on
Yeah.
again.
I love talking to you. You always get me thinking about things in a different way, and I'm totally stealing that movie one. I'm going to be
Yeah,
recommending that to my clients. Yeah, that's a gooder.
exactly. And you know what? Well, I'll have you on again because,
Oh,
there's
that
so
would be
many
great.
rabbit holes I'd love to go down with you.
Well, and we can always learn from each other, right? If we're open
Exactly.
to it, we always learn from each other. So
Yeah,
I
I
love
love
that.
it. Absolutely
Thank you.
love it. Okay. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Thank you for joining me today on another episode of Becoming Sound. If this episode resonated with you in some way, please share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It helps to get this information out to more people who may need it. If you have a sec, I would love a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. While you're there, hit the 5-star rating and give me a review. When you're scrolling, follow me on my social platforms, and I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Have a fabulous day, lots of love and gratitude from me. Please note, the views, information, and opinions expressed during the Becoming Sound podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved. The content of this podcast is to educate, inform, and for entertainment purposes only. This podcast series and the content presented does not constitute for medical or other professional advice or services. If you are in crisis or in need of help, please contact your medical or professional provider.